Hey YouTube family. Hey YouTube family. I desire all is well. I just wanted to come on here and just chat for a little bit. I've been having so many spiritual downloads, and it's just been stuck on me how when we're caught up in the ways of the world, how we can become spiritually trapped and mentally enslaved. And what I mean is when we're constantly following the ways of the world and stuck on material possessions, this is one of many ways how we can become spiritually dead and mentally enslaved because we are following the ways of the world. And this is how we eventually begin to repeat pattern cycles and loops um, because we're caught up in the ways of the world. And again, when you're spiritually dead, you stick to what's familiar. You attach to what's familiar because you have become mentally enslaved from the programming and the false identities that was placed upon you from the world, from society. And then this is how, again, one of many ways that you lose insight of who you truly are, which are the gods and goddesses that the church speak of, the gods and goddesses that the world speak of. And when you are spiritually dead from following the ways of the world and getting caught up with the burdens of the world, um, the systems that were put in place to also keep you dumbed down from your truest self and your spiritual insight and your spiritual gifts, this when they start to take effect on you, especially if you're an individual um, that grew up in an environment where all you know is material possessions, all you know is material gains. And when you are that type of individual, it makes you make decisions in life that's not really great for you. And this is when the systems come and play. Like we have school systems, bank systems, we have corporations, we have jail systems, court systems, right? And when you are trapped in the ways of the world, especially an individual who's stuck on material gains and material possessions, you can find your way repeating these cycles and loops as far as in and out of the jail system, in and out of the court system, because you have become so spiritually dead and so mentally enslaved from the ways of the world and being caught up in the ways of the world that you lost insight of who you truly are and what you was truly supposed to be doing, right? So this is why we find individuals who's in and out of jail, who's constantly in and out of trouble. It's because they truly don't know who they are. They have lost spiritual insight of who they truly are, and they have lost insight of what our purpose and calling here on earth was or was supposed to be, what they were truly supposed to be doing. And after a while of doing that, you start to become or consume your environment. You start to become or consume the products of your environment. You start to become or consume the people, places, and things that you're around, and this is how you be. This is how you begin to repeat the same cycle patterns and loops. For my ones that's in the streets, who only know material things, material possessions. Material things do not validate who we are. To be honest, material gains only show for real what you're full of. It only shows even more how you are spiritually dead and mentally enslaved because the material things was put here as one of the things to keep us dumbed down from tapping into our fullest power. And I say that because I was an individual who thought at one point in time in my life who thought that material gains and material possessions, I allow those things to validate me. I allow those things to give me a false identity, right? And after a while, I came to my senses and I started to realize that material things don't define who we are. For real, material things only keep us broke, busted, and disgusted, and constantly looking and searching for things outside of ourselves. Again, repeating cycles, patterns, and loops. Because we allow things outside of us to define who we are or bring us a false sense of identity. And that really shows what you're full of within when you allow worldly possessions to do those, to identify and to validate you. The word says, the word of God says, what is it? What is it to gain the whole world but lose your soul? When you are trapped in the ways of the world, you can become soulless. And once you're a soulless, it's really a wrap. It's really a wrap for you because you stick to what's familiar, and you are constantly find yourself repeating the same cycle patterns and loops. And I got to witness this from a close family member. Um, I had no clue that it had been 18 years went by. Um, 18 years went by. And it goes to show you how time flies. But anyways, 18 years went by for this individual who was constantly repeating the same cycle patterns and loops. And I had no idea that it had 18 years had went by. And I basically had to ask myself, like, where did time go? 18 years repeating the same cycle patterns and loops? That's crazy work. That's crazy work. And constantly giving up your freedom to the white man because of the material possessions, because of the material gains, because you were so caught up in the ways of the world that you truly had lost insight of who you truly are or what you was truly supposed to be doing. And because you repeated these same cycle patterns and loops, it had became a habitual habit to the point where you find yourself in and out of the prison, in and out of the jail. And when I see this, I have to ask individuals like, when are you going to wake up and smell like coffee? Do you not know that these systems were set here in place to keep us dumbed down, to keep us from tapping into our truest self, to keep us from tapping into our spiritual gifts? Because we are spiritual beings having a human experience. We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? And since spirit is first and physical is second, when you get caught up in the physical, this is how you lose your spiritual self. This is how you lose your spiritual insight and become mentally enslaved from the programs and the systems that was placed upon us to keep us dumbed down, to keep us looking for things outside of ourselves. Again, one of many reasons how we become mentally enslaved and spiritually dead individuals from following the ways of the world. And after so long from following the ways of the world, we become soulless, we become clueless, we began to stick to what's familiar with us and constantly repeating generational curses and repeating generational patterns that was placed upon our bloodline. And a lot of people can't break the generational patterns and generational curses is because the root runs so deep on that bloodline. And they're not willing to surrender so that they are able to grow and heal and break the curses and patterns on the bloodline. So therefore, it constantly repeats itself. And after a while, you 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, still doing the same shit, still repeating the same cycles. Because you're familiar with it. Instead of stepping out of the fear and stepping into faith to heal, to elevate, so that you can break the curse. Because if no one is willing to break the curse, guess what? It's going to constantly repeat itself and go on to the children, to the grandchildren, and constantly keep repeating itself. And eventually you will die repeating the same cycle patterns and loops, the generational curses. And it was, the systems were put here so that we wouldn't truly learn who we are or figure out who we are. That's why the systems were set in place. Schools don't define who you are. Working a good corporation job don't define who you are. The cars that you drive, the money that's in your bank account or in your pocket, or the clothes and shoes that you wear do not define who we are as individuals. Those things are material things. Those things are material possessions. Material things from material possessions do not define who we are. And once we become consumed by these things, and because people know us more than we know ourselves, this is why these things were set in place, to consume us, so that we'll never figure it out, so that we'll never tap into our highest potential, so that we'll never elevate to our greatest versions of ourselves. As individuals, as spiritual beings having human experiences, we need to wake up and smell the coffee and call our power back. Call our energy back from the people, places, and things that we have allowed outside of us to define us, especially the material things. We have to give people, places, and things that are shit back. Especially the things that's no longer serving us. The things that have kept us stuck for so long. And sometimes this requires removing your closest loved ones in order to elevate. Because as long as you're consumed from the people, places, and things that's around you, you will never tap into your highest potential. You will always be trapped in a material world and thinking material gains and material possessions defining who you are. But they really not. They really keeping you dumbed down from who you truly are. Those things really keep you trapped, spiritually dead, with no type of insight, and mentally enslaved, constantly repeating the same cycle patterns and loops. So I just wanted to drop y'all today with that wisdom, because I've been having so many downloads how the material world has kept us stuck and keeps us dumbed down when we are following the ways of the world. I love you, YouTube family, and I'll talk to you all later.